Good morning, everyone. Today is January 22nd, 2021, and I read Genesis chapter 22. Today's passage is a very well-known story in the Bible, and I think many of us have heard it at least once in our lifetime. I chose parts of verses 2 to 10 that basically summarize this whole entire story, and at this time I would like to read it to us. He said, "Take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I shall tell you." So Abraham rose early in the morning, saddled his donkey, and took 2 of his young men with him and his son Isaac. And Isaac said to his father Abraham, "My father," and he said, "Here I am, my son." He said, "Behold the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering?" And Abraham said, "God will provide for himself." When they came to the place of which God had told him, Abraham built the altar there and laid the wood in order, and bound Isaac his son and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. The countless times I've heard this story in my life, I've always thought, wow, Abraham and Isaac are very obedient people who follow God's words. And this is true. Between verses 2 and 3, there is no record of Abraham complaining or hesitating. It only says God wanted Isaac, and so Abraham prepared to give Isaac to God, and there's nothing else except for that. Also in verse 9, there's no record of Isaac resisting. It just says Abraham bound him and laid him on the altar, and nothing but that. Reading today's story, I constantly thought to myself, just imagine how hard it is to give your one and only son as a sacrifice. But what I've noticed is that Abraham and his only son Isaac very closely resemble our God and his only son Jesus. God sends his pure child to not only take on the sins of mankind, but to also die in the most cruel and painful way possible. And what does Jesus do in response? He obeys. And we know that it was hard for him to follow God's will too, because we know that he prayed before dying on the cross to take this cup away from him. But at the end of that prayer, he said, "If it is your will, Father, let it be done." Let's live today holding this precious message in our hearts and obeying God's will even when it gets so difficult. I know today's video was short and simple, but I believe it was very, very strong, and I hope the message reached out to you. Thank you so much for joining today's journey. You can watch yesterday's video up there, and I'll see you guys tomorrow with Genesis chapter 23. Bye!